Okay, good morning everyone. Just got back from my morning bike ride on the anthill, and as you can tell, my bike's pretty muddy. The trails were really muddy. The first time I've taken my new bike uh, through the mud, it did pretty well. I'm still trying to get used to the gearing on this thing, because I had to go up some really muddy like hills and stuff, and for me on the 29er it seems a little bit more spookier, and it did seem like it was a little bit more harder for me to handle the bike, to try to keep it from the front wheel or the back wheel slipping out from underneath me as I'm pedaling up the real muddy hill. I think if I had a little bit smaller bike, like a 26 inch or a 27.5, I think I could went up the muddy, went up them real wet and muddy hills a lot easier than with the 29er. But that's what I was noticing about the bike, as far as going down muddy trails, wet and muddy trails. The 29er, it seems like it's a little bit more, how can I say, it feels like it's a little bit more harder to handle in that kind of situation. Yeah, I feel like I struggle with the bike a little bit when I'm pedaling through the mud and trying to go up the muddy hills and trying to keep control of the bike. But yeah, I think a little bit smaller bike, like I said, 26 or 27.5, probably would have handled the muddy trails and the hills a lot more easier. But yeah, here it is, the 2018 Giant Talon 2. Let's see, got quite a bit of mud on my tires. You can tell I was going through a lot of mud. Got a lot of mud by my derailleur, my front derailleur. Got some mud on my rear derailleur. There's the back tire. Got some mud up in there. Got some mud. Now I did notice that when I started getting some mud and dirt in here, I heard kind of a funny sound coming from my crank. So once I get all that washed off, I'm gonna have to check that out, because it was making a funny noise, but then when I was coming back, I didn't really hear it too much. Oh, one thing I wanted to say. What I noticed about when you're riding on like wet and muddy trails, and you're going up these big hills and they're wet and muddy, and there's a lot of moisture and stuff on the ground. I came up to this one hill, and I had to go down the hill, and it was probably about maybe a 17 foot hill, and I was going down, and as I was applying my brakes, I can tell that I had to really lay hard on my brakes. I don't know if that had something to do with the moisture or what, but I felt like the disc brakes, it wasn't really slowing me down enough to be able to go down this hill safely. And so for me, the disc brakes was a little spooky for me. I mean, even if I just had regular clamp brakes, I know that I could have took that hill and started braking, and I would have felt a lot more safer than the disc brakes. That's just my opinion. I feel like when you're riding on wet and muddy trails with disc brakes. I feel like the disc brakes don't really work as good as people say they do, for me anyways. I mean, I got hydraulic disc brakes, and as soon as they get wet or muddy, I feel like it's much harder to stop. You can even tell, if you look, you can see the line where I had to really ride down hard on the brakes. So let's see if I can get a shot of the front. Let's see, I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's a disc. I'm trying to show you. Yeah, if you can tell right there, you can kind of see the darkness of it, where you can tell that I had to really apply on the brakes because of the moisture and the mud. But anyways, that's kind of my review of it, about riding on muddy and wet trails with a giant Talon 2 2018. Yeah, I wasn't really too happy about, you know, the way the brakes were performing and the handling of the bike in the mud. But I mean, overall it's still a good bike. I highly recommend it. But I think if you're gonna ride, you know, wet and muddy trails like I was, they're really aggressive trails, the ones I was riding, because one wrong move, you can go over the handlebars, you can really hurt yourself. And I felt like the 29er, for me, I'm 5'11", and I have a medium frame, and for me it just felt like it was a little bit too, it was hard to handle for me, just trying to keep the bike on the trail. Anyways, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button, and thank y'all for watching. Keep the bike on the trail. Goodbye now.